Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sophia Bell, and I am more than honored to be standing in front of you today as an Eleanor Kirkpatrick Franco-American Fellow. Before I begin, I want to express my deepest gratitude to a few people who, without their support, this entire experience would not be possible. To Madam Whittington and Madam Dawson, thank you for always believing in me as your student. Because of you, I had all the skills necessary to go on this trip. To the board of the Alliance Française, thank you for entrusting this group of students here today with us going on this trip. We are deeply grateful for your support. And to the Eleanor Kirkpatrick Foundation, thank you for recognizing the importance of student immersion into other cultures. Without you, this opportunity would truly not be possible. This topic first interested me when I was eating lunch one day with my dad, and we saw numerous elderly people eating alone. It made me a little sad as I wondered why they were eating alone. Maybe they liked the peace of sitting alone, or maybe they felt they had no other option. The latter reason got me thinking, how are the elderly perceived in our community, and how are they perceived differently? Thus, my idea project was born. As I got closer to my trip, I realized I wanted to expand my research to both cover the treatment of the elderly and the perception of elderly through their communities. By doing so, I hope to gain a more holistic perspective of my topic. My research began almost immediately after I got off the plane, as my host family had planned a lunch with their grandparents that same day, which was a great way to beat the jet lag, I might add. And throughout the lunch, I had the chance to observe both how my host student interacted with his grandparents in similar ways as me, as well as I got the opportunity to ask them questions. His grandpa reminded me of my own, often bragging about his grandkids or cracking a joke or two. Another thing that really was similar is he complained about how fast his grandkids talk, which my grandpa can attest, he agrees with that. My host family's grandma was very sweet, very caring, just like my own grandma, and she often told her husband to stop making as many jokes and to be on his best behavior, which brought me right back home to sitting at my table with my grandparents. From this first lunch and the conversations that followed, I began to notice a pattern, one that wasn't just confined to France. Whether in a small French town or an American suburb, the elderly are treated with a certain respect and tenderness that transcends borders. Both cultures, for example, tend to view aging people not as a loss, but as a gaining of wisdom. It's common in both countries for grandparents to play important roles in family lives, such as these meals, and offering guidance, sharing stories, and serving as emotional anchors. In both societies, there's also a tendency for people to treat elderly with extra politeness, whether it's helping them cross the street, carry their groceries, or giving up a seat on public transportation. My host grandparents laughed when they said that people often were suddenly nicer to them, and it reminded me back home how my grandparents are often called sweetie, sugar, or hun when we go out to restaurants or grocery stores. This shared cultural instinct to be kind and accommodating toward older adults suggests a mutual value placed on the dignity in aging. When I talked to students at the high school where we were, many of them said they often saw their grandparents and shared long meals like the one I experienced. Not only did many of them see their grandparents more than once a week, but in a poll I took, over 34% of students had a grandparent living in their home. In comparison, in a poll taken by a group of students at my school, only 9% of students had a grandparent in their home. These numbers really stood out to me, not just because they're statistically significant, but because they reflect something deeper about the cultural values in both communities. In France, it seems like there's a stronger tradition of multi-generational homes, or at the very least, regular interaction between young people and their grandparents. Sharing meals, spending weekends together, or even just checking in regularly appears to be a normal part of life. It made me realize how naturally those relationships are woven into the rhythm of their everyday routines. In contrast, while American students love and value their grandparents just as much, it's often more common for families to live separately in sometimes different cities or even different states. Part of this may be due to lifestyle differences or the fast pace that American families often operate under. But I also think it reveals how our systems and expectations are structured. In the US, independence is emphasized so strongly that once children grow up and start their own families, the physical and emotional distance from older generations tends to grow too. What I found especially powerful was seeing how these frequent, simple interactions, like a shared meal or a Sunday visit, seem to naturally build stronger bonds across generations. And while both French and American families care deeply for their elders, the way that care is expressed looks different. One culture might emphasize regular physical presence and shared time, while the other leans toward more formal systems of support and occasional visits. Neither approach is wrong, but comparing them side by side helped me to reflect on how cultural expectations shape the way we connect with older generations. Now moving into the institutionalized part of the treatment of the elderly. While I was in France, I had the opportunity to visit a retirement home, or a maison de retraite, as it is referred to there. Apologies. I was able to speak with their director and take a tour of the facility. One of the biggest differences I noticed between this facility and those that I've seen in the US was the importance of making its residents feel as independent as possible. All the rooms at the facility are furnished using the residents' own furniture, and they are free to paint the walls and decorate in any manner which they choose. The retirement home also places a strong emphasis on providing the residents with many activities so they are enriched. I had the chance to meet some of the women who lived there during their crafting time, and they were very eager to point out some of the crafts that they had made hanging on the walls. Another part of the building that intrigued me was the way it was divided. Instead of having numbers or letters to designate the hallways, they named them. There was the poet's wing, the artist's wing, the musician's wing, and the reader's wing. What struck me most during the visit wasn't just the aesthetics of the place or even the programming. It was the philosophy behind it. There was such a clear focus on maintaining a sense of identity and personal agency for each resident. By encouraging them to bring their own furniture, decorate their space, and continue doing things they enjoy, the home seemed less like an institution and more like an extension of their own lives. It wasn't about managing the elderly, it was about supporting them and living well. This made me reflect on some of the retirement homes I visited or heard about in the US, where environments can sometimes feel sterilized and clinical. While there are certainly many wonderful facilities in the US, it seems that the French approach prioritizes personalization and autonomy in a very intentional way. I also loved seeing how much pride the women took in their artwork. It wasn't just a way to pass the time. It was something that gave them purpose, confidence, and a sense of community. Watching them laugh and share their projects reminded me that no matter our age, we all want to feel seen, valued, and capable of contributing something meaningful. That visit reminded me that how we care for our older generations isn't just a matter of health and safety. It's also a question of dignity and joy. And the small choices we make, whether it's offering creative outlets or allowing someone to hang their favorite family photo on a wall, can make a world of difference in how respectful and fulfilled someone feels in the later years of their life. This experience truly opened my eyes not only to the way that other cultures care for their elderly, but also how much we can learn from one another. Whether it's through shared meals, intergenerational bonds, or the design of retirement homes, both French and American societies show respect and love for their older generations in their own unique ways. But what this journey reminded me most is that aging is not something to fear or to be isolated. It's something to embrace, support, and celebrate. As I return home, I carry with me a deeper appreciation for my grandparents and for the wisdom, humor, and love that older generations can bring into our lives. Oh my gosh. I also carry a sense of responsibility. I'm gonna drink. Okay. Oh. Okay. I also carry a sense of responsibility. Oh my gosh. Can we pause that?
Yes.
Okay.
Whoops. How much do you have left?
Just one paragraph.
Okay.